Joining us now is Sky News contributor Louise Roberts and news.com.au reporter Bronte Coy. Ladies, I maintain that the Australian Republican movement is the greatest gift to monarchists. Louise, with Princess Catherine returning to her duties this week in a very subtle and compassionate way, it just makes Craig Foster look all the more churlish.
Well, that's right, Cara. On one hand, we have the stylish and classy Catherine, who, of course, was greeting a 16-year-old cancer victim in the UK with such warmth and dignity and gave her this beautiful hug as well. And that's Catherine to a T, really. That's it's very Diana as well, the way she reaches out to ordinary people and makes them feel welcome. And then on the other hand, of course, we have a bit of a class-free zone when it comes to Craig Foster, who receives this coveted invite, is quite happy, as you say, to accept an AM in what I think it was 3 years ago now. But when the opportunity arises for him to meet the King, or at least be in the environment of the King, says no and is very churlish and patronising about the monarchy per se. So I think it's, to use some of his parlance, a real own goal by him.
Very good way to put it. And Bronte, that meeting that Catherine took this week, some stunning front pages following that. It's been really well captured by the press, and I think the royal family are keen to frame a narrative around the new approach to Catherine's return.
Yeah, absolutely. These were such heartwarming pictures, and they were, as you say, everywhere, over here, but also around the world. It really was the picture embodiment of what she'd said in her message when she said she'd finished chemotherapy, and also earlier this year when she discussed the treatment, which is to other fellow cancer sufferers. She said, basically, I'm with you. And that picture really summed that up so beautifully. And it was such an important moment for that young teenager who's going through such an awful thing. And it really does give everyone a little bit of hope when they see that. And so I think generally the framing around her return to work has been gentle. Kate made it very clear, as we've discussed in this program, that she'll be coming back in a slow way. There is absolutely no timeline on when it will be back to how it was before, or if it ever will be exactly as it was before she got sick. But what we're seeing is her step back into the spotlight in small and careful ways that are really meaningful to her. And I think that is what we'll be seeing for some time to come. We know she's had some quiet meetings regarding her early years foundation, which is really important to her. She's going to take part in her Christmas Carol event later in the year, which is also really important to her. And so I think this is, again, just part of that, the new approach to Kate's work that we'll be seeing for some time.
Yeah, and also this week, a great charity event held by Prince William with David Beckham. The Prince and Princesses of Wales posted it on their X. Here's a clip.
As soon as I was asked to be involved by Prince William, it was something that I was very honoured, in all honesty. This charity have done so much for so many people over the years, and, you know, when they rely on donations and public funding, you know, it helps. It buys one of these beautiful helicopters, so I'm very proud to be involved.
Now, Louise, can you tell us about this event, as well as this growing relationship between the Waleses and the Beckhams? Very interesting.
It is, yeah, and very genuine as well, I think, as well. It's not a transactional relationship. They do have a genuine friendship there, but they were both there for the London Air Ambulance. And I think David's mentioned in previous interviews how when he was growing up in London's East End, he would often see the chopper fly over and he knew they were saving someone's life. So it's a cause very close to his heart. He's an ambassador. Of course, William is the patron of this charity, and they were at the RAF base at Northolt this week to wrap up a fundraising campaign for new equipment. They met a lot of the medical staff. They met some people whose lives had been saved by these choppers, of course, and you could see there was a very easy friendship between them. They hopped into the cockpit of the chopper and William was showing Bex around some of the dials on the screen and so forth. I don't know if David's actually got his chopper's licence. I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't have one or was planning to do it already. But I think also around the Beckhams, they have played a masterful game here as far as building and identifying a very strong relationship with the royal family. Of course, they are the royal family of football, so it's a natural synergy in a way. And you can see that they have many causes that they feel comfortable working together on. Of course, Bex himself is an ardent royalist. He got his OBE from the Queen in 2003. And also very famously queued up to view her in state when she died, and, you know, stood there for hours waiting patiently for his turn. Didn't pull rank because he's a world famous celebrity. So it's a great example of how celebrity and royalty, I think, can come together for good causes like the London Air Ambulance.
And in a very sophisticated way, I have to say. Bronte, last week on the show we foreshadowed Harry's visit to Africa. Now, how did it go? Did it achieve what it was meant to achieve?
Well, I guess to decide whether it's achieved what it was going to achieve is to look at what his office said about the trip. So he was visiting Centre Bali charity centres and seeing that the impact that work has had there. Centre Bali is a charity that he co-founded in 2006, and it supports young people who have HIV or at risk of getting HIV. And in that way, yes, absolutely. You know, there were some beautiful pictures and interviews and speeches that have come out of this trip, and he's toured around the area, and he seems to have really lifted spirits in the places that he visited, and he met a lot of people that are involved with the charity and that have been impacted in a really positive way. I suppose the issue that he has here and that he's going to continue to have is, as we're talking about right now, it's been an incredibly busy week for the working royal family. William has been out and about so much at some really fun events and really large-scale events this week, including with David Beckham. We had that beautiful moment with Kate earlier in the week with the hug with as we were talking about, with the cancer sufferer. And so with all that, the trip has, in a lot of ways, been overshadowed. We actually haven't seen anywhere near as much coverage of it as we may have seen in the past. So yeah, in one way it has achieved its goals in that he has delivered on what he said he was going to do while he was there. But in terms of the press coverage, which is really crucial to keeping these charities afloat and continuing to get more fundraising, it possibly hasn't had the cut through that he would have liked to have had.
And perhaps there's a reason for that, Louise. This brings us to an issue which has been in the media quite a bit, and that's where is Meghan? We've spoken before about this professional separation as such, but Harry's done quite a few events this week without Meghan. It's raising eyebrows, but is the media reading too much into this?
No, I don't think the media are overcooking this at all, Caro. I think you just have to look at the photographs of Harry and the video, and you can see the broad smile. You can see that wonderful grin, that cheeky parlance that he has that we've missed and we haven't seen for such a long time. You compare that to when they went to Colombia and he was sullen-faced, he was sulky, you know, it was all about Meghan in that way, and he didn't like it. And I mean, part of that as well as him not wanting to overshadow his wife. But I do think there's a clear strategy here to rehabilitate his public image and the way people view him as well, and his reputation too. So I do feel the two of them as a sort of going concern, their reputation is still not good, but obviously there's a strategy and he must be on board with this to sort of push him forward and do some of the charity work that we've mentioned, and also to continue the legacy of his mother, which he said on his 18th birthday that's what he wanted to do.
And Bronte, just off the back of what Louise said, I guess this, again, around the mountain again, why is this happening? And Harry just does appear so much better on his own.
Yeah, you know, Louise just hit the nail on the head with that. There is clearly a strategy in place here. What is interesting as well is with this trip, as I've just mentioned, you know, he has actually been away on solo trips now for a few weeks, and it's been quite a whirlwind. And of course, Meghan and Harry have two young kids, so it does make sense. It's an easy excuse as well that, you know, she's at home looking after the kids. But what has created a little bit of an eyebrow raise across some circles is the fact that he's apparently extended this trip by a few days to catch up with some friends and family in South Africa, which, you know, that makes sense. He actually does have a lot of friends and family there. But again, he's been away from home for a while. So that's, you know, that's a curious addition to the trip. But in terms of their general brand, I think for a while now, it's been clear that they have very different interests. And I think that together, they clearly were stepping out in unison, especially right after they left the royal family. That has become a little bit of a controversial brand, as we've discussed on this show a number of times. So, you know, it does make sense that they're branching out. She's pursuing her lifestyle brand, her Netflix series. Harry seems to be leaning more into his philanthropic endeavours and the charities that he's worked with for so long. So in that regard, it does make a lot of sense. And I think that we've got whispers of this now. I mean, even as far back as late last year, we were hearing about that. So, yeah, I think that this is a good play by them. I think it's a brand new direction, and I think that they've needed that for a while.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. And Louise, it seems like everyone has an opinion about the Sussexes. And a Welsh former professional rugby union player, Daniel Bigger, he's recently released a memoir. Now, in it, he's made a pretty pointed claim about a conversation he had with Prince William about the Sussexes. What did he say?
Well, yeah, that's right. So he's doing a book tour, and in order to promote his memoir, he's sort of wheeled out this anecdote saying that he was in the room when Rob Evans, also a Welsh rugby player, said to William, "Your brother's under the thumb, isn't he?" Isn't he? Kind of like suggesting that William would either respond to this. We don't know what was said after that, whether William sort of brushed it off or ignored it or whatever. I would have been fascinated to hear what his response would have been to that. But the fact that Bigot has actually brought it up as part of his book tour, it obviously made an impact on him. The fact that people were saying this directly to the future King of England about his own brother, it's quite staggering, really.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely it is. And I love how these things get wheeled out at things like book launches when you're least suspecting them. And Louise, just lastly, before we go, a report this week about the empire being built by Zara and Mike Tindall. They're absolute favourites on this show. Can you tell us what they've put together?
Well, yes, there's a report out of the UK, Caro, saying they're worth about the equivalent of 60 million Australian dollars, which I'm not surprised because they are probably the most relatable royal couple you would care to ever meet. I mean, they're great, that they're not funded by the taxpayer at all. They've made it very much a point of wanting to have their own business and sports interests as well. They're immensely popular here. They come every year to Magic Millions, which of course is a fantastic show jumping and polo event up in Queensland. They're very popular. They've got a very broad base of fans in the UK as well. So they've got a lot of fingers in pies and very successful, and good luck to them, I say.
And we love them here too. Louise Bronte, thank you so much for joining us this evening.